Hello and welcome to another product update video from Bowers. Today I want to talk to you about the Bowers Universal Gauge. Now this gauge can be set up with various tooling configurations for measuring internal measurements and external measurements. I've got a fixed anvil here, a tooling position, and a moving anvil with 20 millimeters of travel, and I can change the spring bias on that moving anvil to change from internal measurements to external. In this particular example, I've got the relatively small tooling extensions with some depth stops, but there are a number of tooling configurations to suit various applications which are impossible to measure with conventional gauges when the part is still chucked onto the machine tool. The standard gauge has a measuring range of 30 to 255 millimeters for internal measurements and 0 to 220 millimeters for external measurements. This can be extended, however, up to 3 meters using standard carbon fibre extensions. We've got 1 metre, 500 millimetre and 150 millimetre extensions, and the whole beam is cylindrical to ensure stiffness in every direction when using the gauge in either direction. I've got some datum buttons here which allow an easy alignment of the fixed anvil. So simply datum those down on a flat surface, lock up, and now my tooling is in perfect alignment, ready for the next job. So for this particular setup, I've got a much more simple tooling configuration. Instead of using any of the leg extensions to get the anvils down inside a deep part, I've got my anvils clamped directly into tooling blocks which are bolted to the fixed and the moving anvil locations. So I've got my spring bias set for an internal dimension. So I'm just quickly going to put that into, in this case, a groove. I've set my gauge already, and I've set the mode of the gauge to remember the maximum value as we sweep through the diameter. So off center, reset my memory, sweep through, and then the display freezes at the diameter. Next part, and we're set to go. So just to show you how quickly we can change that to an external diameter measurement, I've got a diameter here on the outside which is actually within the measuring range of my moving anvil. So using this different tooling location and setting the rotation of the anvils to external, let's just lock those in position like so. And now I'm going to need to change the spring bias on the gauge itself, lock that up, and now my spring bias is going in towards each other, so it's at the external position. Again, preset the gauge to the new standard using a gauge block or some other simple available method, and locked anvil in position, reset the gauge, sweep through, and there we have an external measurement. Setting the gauge is easy. Simply assemble it to the length required and set my fixed position along the beam where it's required. And for short lengths, I'm going to use a readily available setting ring. I can preset the ring size into my gauge, and using the sweep function on the gauge, simply set the preset, and then we're ready to go. I've got a 20 millimeter measuring range away from that preset. For longer lengths, I've got a setup here that shows the universal gauge in a longer configuration, and this is set on our universal length setting system, which uses a length bar, conventional length bar. We can put that into the gauge. I've got a floating anvil here which is connected to an indicator, preset the length into the indicator, and then I've got an anvil position here, which is a known length. Then it's a case of simply setting the gauge in between the anvils using tooling stops to suit the various types of tooling that you've got in this configuration. Sweep through, preset that into your gauge and you're good to go. So, the Bowers Universal Gauge, appropriately named as it covers a whole range of different gauging applications from 0 all the way through to 3 meters in length. Internal, external, the gauge is available in standard sets that come with a range of tooling options and anvil options, but for those particular applications, we have a team at Bowers ready to quote for an application-specific solution, so please get in touch if that's the case. Thanks for watching.